Low-tech is broad. If you see it as a tool, it's incredibly inviting, because suddenly everything has the potential to be something else, and that's exciting. But as a concept, it can be a little bit more daunting, because it can so easily take you into a confusing journey where you start to deconstruct everything in this effort to go back, to simplify, and there it will inevitably ask you to break down and deconstruct the complexities of high tech in your day-to-day. Your phone, a computer, the way you work, the materials you use, all the things you're comfortable with but vaguely understand. So you can get stuck and overwhelmed when it's not only about creating anymore, but recreating, upcycling, fixing, maybe, hopefully. And in this process, this journey, you realize you didn't know how many tiny and seemingly random screws you can find in a bike.
Personally, I found taking the bike relatively nice. I think a lot of the parts were easy screw fittings, or just required an Allen key to take on.
So for my thoughts when taking apart the bike, I thought it was going to be a lot easier at first than it actually turned out to be. Like, obviously we at first thought we were going to cut it apart and do all these things with it, but once we started like actually trying to take it apart, because it was old and abandoned, it was like rusted, so we needed to try and figure out which size Allen keys to use.
We can just put some back in. Yeah, then we just put the pin back in. Best of luck with that. Vinyl.
There were a few parts where brute force had to be used, but apart from that, yeah, no, I really enjoyed taking it apart, and I think it wasn't too hard, and I could easily replicate the process on another bike sometime soon.
We needed to figure out, which parts we could even undo because of the rust. So we just started taking things apart, and obviously we started with the wheels, because one of the wheels had already fallen off. But it got exponentially harder. Eventually we had to like clamp it in a vise to make sure you could get to the right angles so it didn't fall over all the time. And I just think that was a really interesting experience. Obviously I wasn't frustrated, but it was annoying that we couldn't take apart the bike as much as we wanted to without specialist tools.
I can't believe we're not going to be able to pull it apart on our own. We have so many tools, we have TDs, we have enormous facilities in the university, and we won't be able to fully pull it apart just because we're missing like one or two tools. But fortunately, there's people that can help us out, give us a hand, people with the right tools, with the right knowledge, and that also have their own little community.
Well, this bit was about 10 years old. We started off doing cycle training. I'll show you. This is where we set up. And then we set up a workshop.
Andy over there, he's on
That's where we started. A very small place.
That is quite small.
And that's how it started. And then gradually, after 3 years there, made it look better than that.
Yeah.
And we moved here, and this was very small, but we gradually built more and more things here as it's grown slowly. And we've got 7 members of staff. A lot of the recycling's done by volunteers.
Yeah.
So Russ, the person who came around, he's paid, but the other 2 were volunteers. We have about 20 volunteers that do all the work on the recycling works.
Cables and the gear cables have been replaced. So all of them have been replaced. And it looks like the chain has been replaced on this as well. So what I'm doing.
They work knowing from the start. Knowing its use, its reason to be. They use a plan, log materials, brainstorm, sketch, refine, mark, cut, assemble.
So imagine you got the bike, you take away the frame, you take away the front wheel, take away the handlebars. So you're left with the back wheel and the pedals and the chain, obviously. And then shorten down the wheel, replace that rubber on the outside with paddles, and then that just gives you a mechanism that turns the wheel that propels the boat.
Kind of like just like a paddle boat kind of thing.
Yeah, literally.
And then we can probably make those paddles out of the other parts of the frame.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
What else do you want to make?
Well, there's variations of paddle boat you could do. You could do it so you have the and then alternatively you could go the other end of the spectrum and make a sculpture. I was thinking the seat could be a head, the frame could be cut up into like the bars which make a stick person. Yeah, and then the wheels make a wheelchair.
Oh right, so you could do like a person sitting on a wheelchair as kind of like a sculpture would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, shifting away from sculptures, you could do furniture. You could turn
The table.
one wheel on the bottom, parts of the frame in the middle, another wheel on the top. Sort of maybe try and flatten it down somehow. And you got yourself a table or potentially a chair.
And you said for like the frame of the clock or something, it's quite easy to make like a surround.
Yeah, especially with that, especially with the gears.
Yeah,
The gears,
you can turn
the
the gears
wheel.
from the actual gear mechanism.
Because the gears just provide the aesthetic really. Anyway.
It could also be like a prop for a film, or like a really small miniature for a film set. You know, like I think the Star Wars spaceship was pretty much like that size. So,
Yeah, pedals could be.
yeah.
Pedals could be.
The brake as like a light switch.
Brake's a light switch. The pedals to turn the wheel that adjusts where the light is if you want it further or closer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then, especially then, all you've got to do is cut the bike up a little bit and then stick a lamp on it. Really.
You're keeping the functions of the bike.
Yeah.
You're like not changing how they work too much.
you could probably use like
That's like proper repurposing. Like.
you could use like the place that they have for the wires and just put the wires in the lights.
Yeah.
That's true.
Cut off the front half, have a unicycle.
Yeah, I mean,
The unicycle.
even making it into like, because then you've got so many extra components that you're just not using, and you can make something out of that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like the head of the animal.
Oh yeah.
Oh, like
That's
animals-
going back to
animal
sculptures, isn't it? Yeah.
Who did you say?
Oh, Picasso. did that.
Picasso, yeah. Yeah, the handlebars and the seat make a bull-looking thing or an antler animal.
And the animal.
And if you keep like the brakes on it, you've got like the LBS.
Oh, that's true.
And then it can also be like, well, the thing with the handlebars that we have, they're quite straight.
That's true.
Yeah.
But you could bend them.
You could bend them, yeah.
Or you could just cut them in the middle and reposition them.
You could.
There's a lot of things you can do with that.
You could cut the wheels, like cut a segment off them, and they could be tusks for a elephant.
How cool.
Seat. Right, so you got the seat, comes down like that, that's like the face. Or part of the and then gears. Two parts of the wheel. The gears could be the ears,
You could bend the
rhymes as well. Gears for ears, seat for trunk, and then parts of the wheel for tusk.
There you go.
Oh, and then you've got an elephant's head that you can stick on the wall. Also, if you connect them strong enough, those tusks that come out can be used like hang coats up and stuff like that. You know, like coat
It
rack.
can be a functional thing as well.
So then you've got the aesthetics, it's like of the bike. You've got like the abstract looking around.
Sometimes it's good to know exactly where you're going. You know what you're going to end up to. But sometimes it's also helpful to just grab what's at hand and play, see what you can do with it, and later just try to see if there's any particular use, if what you found cannot be redirected into purpose. Figure out how. And this way, there's no set plan or path to follow. It's just about the journey and what you take from it. Make, reflect, adapt, do as you go, and start again if you need to.